Hello, one, two. Yes, see. Yes, see. Okay, done. Hello, one, two, two. Hello, check. Hello, 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 hello. Check. Hello, check. Hello, hello, hello. Testing. Hello. Check.
If anyone wants to grab a cup of tea quickly before the program starts, the tea has just arrived there. Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello. Om Namah Shivaya. Har Har Mahadev. Hello. Om Namah Shivaya. Har Har Mahadev. Har Har Mahadev. Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. ठीक है
Shiva, Har Har Mahadev Shankara. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Har Har Shankara, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Har Har Shankara, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Har Har Shankara, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Har Har Shankara, Namah Shivaya.
some problem with the electricity, but he has made everything okay. So today we have Srijan, a talented music composer and a Hindustani classical vocalist par excellence. He is also a scholar of Sanskrit and takes a keen interest in culture and arts of India. Halley Goswami is an advocate turned painter, striving to revive the lost painting and sculpture traditions of Bengal. He is also an amateur of researcher in ancient Indian history, spirituality and arts. So, friends, soak in the spiritual fervour of Mahashivaratri by immersing yourself in a musical evening. Thank you.
Shivam Shankar
We have gathered here today to celebrate Shivaratri. Now, Shivaratri marks the tithi when Mahadev and Mahadevi tied their hands in marriage. It is not just a celebration of Shiva, but also a day for the Shivani, the female principle. As the chilly winters begin to retreat and new leaves begin to sprout, the birds and hibernating animals come forth to bask in the comforts of the pleasant spring. Likewise, it is also a time for us humans to shed our slumber, set aside our slumber, and bask in the light and comfort of our true selves, who we really are. A time to fast, to meditate, to commune with the divine, and realize Him within our hearts. It is said that Mahadev sounded his Damaru 14 times to reveal the root sounds to Panini. And Panini immortalized those revelations as Maheshwar Sutras in his Ashtadhyayi, the founding book of Sanskrit grammar. So the sounds that you have just heard at the beginning, the Mangalacharana began, those were the root sounds of Panini's Ashtadhyayi, the Maheshwar Sutras. And we all know that sound is the primordial seed of creation, whether it's the modern scientists who agree on the Big Bang theory and they say that there was nothing and all of a sudden the entire universe just sprouted. It just from a seed, it just sprang forward through what is known as the Big Bang. And the Vedic seers, the sages, the rishis, thousands of years ago, they also somewhat said the same thing. The Shabda Brahman, the primordial sound which we describe as Om, we have many names. So both agree on the importance of Shabda. So the sound creates. This verily is the Shabda Brahman. In ancient India, there is this yoga, a philosophical system called the Sankhya Yoga. Now, the Sankhya Yoga tries to explain the phenomenon, what is the universe, why do we see it, by the concept of duality, the Purusha and the Prakriti. Now, before I say anything further, we must remember that Purusha and Prakriti is not standing for gender, it is not standing for deity or any human. It is just two concepts. So what are this Purusha and Prakriti of Samkhya Yoga? So the Purusha is the spirit, the consciousness, absolute, independent, unknowable, free, non-attributive consciousness. So basically the Chetana, the conscious part of the universe. And Prakriti is the cognitive, sensory and psychological aspects of reality. In other words, the world that we see around us. Now, if we just think for a minute, whatever we see and feel is just a perception in our brains, because whatever we feel is just, it goes through us, through our sense organs, through our mind, through our intellect. So it is basically creation in our mind, and that creation, whatever we understand of this cosmos, is Prakriti. But in later times, Prakriti has been misconstrued as the material matter. So anyways, so when Purusha comes in contact with the Prakriti, this equilibrium is disturbed and we start experiencing the universe as we experience it. And Jiva, the living entities, is the state when Purusha is bonded with Prakriti. The human experience is this interplay of Purusha and Prakriti. So Samkhya, this philosophy, is one of the earliest philosophical systems of ancient India, and it had a profound influence all over the Indian philosophical thought on all religions, whether it is Jainism, Buddhism or the Indian different schools. In much later times, the Purusha and Prakriti of Samkhya became identified as Shiva and Shakti in the Tantras. But the only difference was when it became identified as Shiva and Shakti, it became conscious. So Prakriti is no longer just a perception, it's a conscious entity, a thriving, a throbbing power. So we'll just contemplate on the Purusha as his manifestation as Shiva. Jai Ho. Music is so enchanting, isn't it? Now, Shiva is also the ultimate repository of music and dance. Because I'm sure we all have seen the Nataraja Murti, the classic Nataraja Murti. And in Eastern India, Nataraj is the Murti that we see Shiva dancing in the ball of fire is basically originating from South India, from the Chola dynasty. And in Eastern India, in Bengal's own Pala dynasty, there used to be a form of Shiva depicted about 1,000 years back where he's also dancing in a slightly different posture. It was called Natesha or Nateshwara. So the word was different. So Natesha means the Ishwara of Nat or dance. And Nat can also stand for dance as well as for theatre. Anyways, we know that Shiva dances in Tandav. And when he dances in his true self as Sat, eternal, Chit, consciousness, and Ananda, bliss, it is called the Ananda Tandandava. And when the pent-up wrath unleashes and sends shockwaves across the universe, it is called the Rudra Tandava. Rudra Tandava is Shiva's cosmic dance of dissolution. And Shiva also plays the Veena, the Rudra Veena, and there is another Veena in the down south, the Saraswati Veena. Rudra Veena is specifically for Shiva. And he beats his Damaru. And he also has his bugle horn which he blows, So as the Shabda Brahman, through this sounds, Shiva creates. And through his Tandav, he dissolutes. And one interesting thing about Shiva is that he's the most sophisticated, if you think this way, and yet he's the most crude. You see a person who is staying in crematoriums, who is wearing a tiger skin and wrapping, now it's winters, so he would have had a elephant skin as his shawl, and yet he's the source of all the ragas. He's the master of melodies. So it's quite a contrast, And the mantras of Shiva describe him as Ratno Kalpa Jwalangam. So basically his anga is shining with the jewels and monies. So this is the paradox, on one hand he has the ashes of funeral pyre, and on the other hand he has the jewels and kireet of gold. So his form and behavior reminds us every moment that this universe is full of opposites. And there is nothing in India, in Indian way of thought, there is nothing that is not divine. Everything is divine. Our perception, it is our perception which makes it, we see divine in something and we do not see it in some other thing. But in the essence, everything is divine. Everything is Shiv. Shiv is sound. And when it comes to saying the sound of Shiv, when we describe that, the thing that comes to our mind is the sound of Damaru. So we'll hear the next song about Shiva's Damaru from Srijan.
Dimika 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 dimi 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 dimika 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 damaru kara baje प्रेम मगना नाचे भोला डिमिक डिमिक डमरू करा बाजे डिमिक डिमिक डमरू करवाजे डिमिक डिमिक डमरू करा बाजे मगन नाचे भोला भोला डिमिक डिमिक डमरू करवाजे प्रेम मगन नाचे भोला सिंह बजावत गावत सिंहनाद बजावत गावत लटक रही बगानी भोला भोला डिमिक डिमिक डमरू करवा दे नाचत प्रेम मगन भोला भोला डिमिक डिमिक फनन सो करतयारते नाग फनन सो करतयारते करतयारते नाग फनन सो करतयारते नाग फनन सो करतयारते देव गतियन मोला भोला डिमिक डिमिक डमरू करवा दे प्रेम मगन नाचे भोला भोला डिमिक डिमिक चंद्र सिर गंगा लहरे भालचंद्र 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 सिर गंगा लहरे भालचंद्र सिर गंगा चंद्र सिर गंगा लहरे हाथ लिए भांग की गोला भोला डिमिक डिमिक डमरू करवा दे डिमिक डिमिक डिमि 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 डिमिक डिमिक डिमि डिमिक 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 डमरू करवा दे डिमिक डिमिक डमरू करवा दे डिमिक डिमिक डमरू करवा दे प्रेम मगन नाचे भोला भोला डिमिक डिमिक डमरू करवा दे प्रेम मगन नाचे प्रेम मगन नाचे प्रेम मगन नाचे भोला
So our Prema Magana Bhola is also the greatest of the ascetic. He's a yogi. How many of us remember seeing the Pashupati seal of Indus Valley civilization in our school textbooks, history textbooks, right? There's a yogi sitting like this with two horn-like headdress. So that is thought to be the earliest iconographical representation of Shiva. So the legacy of Shiva really goes back way, way before the Aryans came in and way before the Vedic civilization. So there was this one god described in Rig Veda and the Vedic literature called the Rudra. And Rudra is one who howls. He's a quite a terrifying god. And there was one more god who was the Pashupati of the non-Vedic people. And over time, as these two cultures intermingled, the Vedic Rudra and the non-Vedic Pashupati intermingled, and what we know today as Shiva was born. I mean, I wouldn't say born, but it kind of fused. So Mahadeva is an ascetic, a yogi. Many of us know the story of the birth of Kartikeya or Skanda. So it was after Sati had passed away, and Shakti had reincarnated as Parvati in the home of Himalayas. And Parvati was doing tapasya, ghor tapasya, to get Shiva as her husband. And meanwhile, there was an asura, Tarakasura, who had got a boon that only Shiva's son can kill him. And he was quite content that Shiva is a yogi, he's a celibate, so I have nothing to fear. But the Devas knew that they have to do something. So they asked the help of Kamadeva, the Madana. And right now it's a springtime, so it's also the time of Kamadeva. And as Parvati came for a daily puja to Shiva, Kamadeva struck his bow and arrow, And Kamadeva's bow is very interesting. It's the bow of sugarcane. Love is very sweet, right? So it's the bow of sugarcane and the arrow of flowers. So he struck the arrow of flowers towards Shiva. And Shiva was in dhyan, and his dhyan broke, he got agitated, and his third eye opened. And Kamadeva was burnt instantaneously. To cut a long story short, eventually Kartikeya, the Skanda, was born, Tarakasura was killed, and the Devas pleaded with Mahadev and brought back Kamadeva to life. But what is the essence of this story? The story of Madana Bhasma? The idea is that Shiva is the ascetic, and he can keep his instinct in his control, which is a sign of being a true yogi. And also, speaking of Bhasma, Mahadev, where does Mahadev belong? Where does he reside? He stays in Smashana, the crematoriums. And why does he do that? Because we have a tendency to think that we try to visualize our gods inside the temples. But strangely enough, many of our gods live in Smashana, a place which is not considered holy. The ascetic chooses these places because Smashana stands for Shunyata. Shunyata from what? When we have completely emptied our hearts of all our greed, of all our lust, of all our wants, it is then that Shiva comes and stays. So Smashana stands for complete void. And complete void is also the complete totality. So Shunyata is also the flip side of Purnata. And so that is the reason why that's why Shiva anoints his body with the ashes of funeral pyre. Now there are two kinds of thing in this cosmos. One which appears holy or sacred but is not holy, and the other variety of thing is which appears unholy or dirty but is actually holy. For example, the material wealth, our relations, they appear holy, but eventually they all give us sorrows. We all know of heartbreaks, and they always drag us down, kind of. And some things like a dead body, a crematorium, although they appear unholy externally, but if you go inside, they reveal the nature of reality, and they remind you that nothing is going to last forever. So that's why, although outwardly it's not holy or not sacred, but inside it is the most sacred. So Shiva chooses this sacredness as his place where he belongs. And that is why Shiva anoints his body with the bhasma, the ashes of funeral pyre. So we will hear a song about ashes and the relation of bhasma with Shiva.
Yeah. गले भुजंग भस्मयंग शंकरयनुरागे सद्गुरु चरणारविंदा सद्गुरु चरणारविंदा शिवा समाधि लागे गले भुजंग भस्मयंग गले भुजंग भस्मयंग गले भुजंग भस्मयंग शंकर अनुरागे शंकर अनुरागे सद्गुरु चरणारविंद सद्गुरु चरणारविंद शिवा समाधि लागे गले भुजंग भस्मयंग गले भुजंग दीन नयन अमृत भरे दीन नयन दीन नयन दीन नयन अमृत भरे दीन नयन अमृत भरे गले मुंड माला गले मुंड गले मुंड माला गले मुंड माला रहत लगन विरात मगन रहत लगन विरात मगन संग गले भुजंग भस्मयंग गले भुजंग भस्मयंग
Gale bhujanga bhasma anga. So bhasma is pure, bhasma is vairagya. But Shiva is not just a vairagi, he is also a grihastha. He's also the ideal householder. There's a paradox, you know. And Shiva is also Shakti. The Prakriti, which I mentioned in the Sankhya Yoga in the beginning of my talk, later on evolved into the Shakti of the Tantras. But when it came down to the Tantras, it acquired an entirely new dimension. In the Sankhya Yoga, the Prakriti was basically a perception in your brain. So Prakriti was not really conscious. It was not consciousness either. It was just a perception of the matter. But here Prakriti becomes conscious and sometimes becomes the highest attainable truth in her own right. So, and together with Ardhanarishwara, they form the most complete image of divinity. Like the fire and its ability to burn, water and its ability to wet, or wind with its ability to dry, Shiva and Shakti are inextricably interlinked. One automatically leads to the other. A very nice example would be how the electric fan moves with the electricity. So without the electricity, the fan has no use. And if there is no fan, electricity cannot express. So the fan is the Purusha, the Shiva, and the electricity flowing is the Prakriti. And that is why you see Kali dancing on the chest of Shiva. She is the electricity of Shiva. So, and she's also Durga. Who is Durga? There are many reasons why Durga is so named. One is because she killed Durgam Asura. One who is Durgaya, or one who is hard to comprehend, or one who is Durgam or remote. But see, in spite of all the remoteness, the mother goddess is the great mother of the universe. And we should be proud as Indians, because India is one of the last bastions where the ancient mother goddess worship still exists. But because if you look to the West, the Western countries, in the last 2000 years, all the ancient goddesses have died down. So the patriarchal system has actually virtually displaced all forms of goddess worship. So the Athena, the Isis of the ancient West do not exist. So India is one of the few remaining places where the oldest prehistoric religion of mankind still exists in all its glory. So it's something to cherish. And she's a great mother. And if you imagine, mother in our childhood, mother used to beat us, really chastise us. And again, it was she who used to feel our pain and lift us up in her lap. And if you see the imagery of Durga or Kali, she has both the traits. She is the Ganesh Janani, she is the great mother, and she also holds the severed head and the scimitar, the sword. So the wrath of the mother is beautifully, it's like a wrath to protect her children. And what exactly do we mean when we say the great mother? Well, the sum total of every emotion of motherhood, that every living entity has felt in his heart is the universal cosmic mother. So the little bird in the nest who feels for her chicks, the human mother, the cow who feels for her calves, all these emotions of motherhood combined, if you can try imagining all over that right at this point of time, all over the world, the surge of motherhood that every mother is feeling, that is the personification of what we call Durga. So in spite of all her Durgya, the remoteness, her difficulty in comprehending her, she is a loving mother. So let us immerse ourselves in this beautiful song, an ode to the mother, an ode to the Devi, an ode to motherhood. And let us close our eyes and feel the warmth of mother's love caressing us.
This particular Devi Stuti is composed by Tulsidas Maharaj. I know it's very uncommon for everyone. Tulsidas is on Devi. So, Devi Stuti.
जय जय जगत जननी देवी, जय जय जगत जननी देवी, जय जय जगत जननी देवी, जय जय जगत जननी देवी। सुर नर मुनि असुर सेवी, सुर नर मुनि असुर सेवी, भक्त भूति दायिनी, भक्त भूति दायिनी, भय हरनि कालिका। जय जय जगत जननी देवी, जय जय जगत जननी देवी। सुर नर मुनि असुर सेवी, सुर नर मुनि असुर सेवी, भक्त भूति दायिनी, भय हरनि कालिका। जय जय जगत जननी देवी, जय जय। मंगल मुद सिद्धि सदनि, मंगल मुद सिद्धि सदनि, पर्व सर्वारी सवदनि। मंगल मुद सिद्धि सदनि, पर्व सर्वारी सवदनि। तापति मेरा तरुण तरनि, तापति मेरा तरुण तरनि, किरण मालिका। जय जय जगत जननी देवी, जय जय जगत जननी देवी। परम चरम कर कृपाण, परम चरम कर कृपाण, शूल शैल धनुष बाण, हरनि गलनि दानवदन, रण करालिका। पूतना पिशाच प्रेत डाकिनी शाकिनी समेत, ग्रह पैताल खाता मृगाली जालिका। जय जय जगत जननी देवी, जय जय जगत जननी देवी, जय जय। जय महेश भामिनी, अनन्तरूपनामिनी समस्तलोक स्वामिनी समस्तलोक स्वामिनी समस्तलोक स्वामिनी हिमशैलबालिका रघुपति पदा परम प्रेम तुलसी चाहे अचलनेम देहु हयो प्रसन्न पाहि प्रणत पालिका जय जय जगत जननी देवी जय जय जगत जननी देवी सुर नर मुनि असुर सेवी भक्त भूति दायिनी भय हरणि कालिका जय जय जगत जननी देवी जय जय जगत जय जय
This song is very close to my heart because Goswami Tulsidasa's song, and it just encapsulates the spirit of Indian religions or Indian spirituality, because Goswami Tulsidas, we all know, is an ardent devotee of Ram, an author of Ramacharita-manas, and in spite of that, he has no qualms in writing so beautifully about Mata Kalika. And Kalika, I think, would stand diametrically opposite with the serenity of Ram and the horridness that Kalika represents. But also in the traditions of Ayodhya, Kalika is the Kuladevi of Rama's family. So anyways, coming back to Sati Devi, Devi had two avatars. The first avatar of Devi was Sati, and we all know she passed away in the great yajna of Daksha, her father. And then she was reborn as Parvati, the daughter of the Parvata, or the Himalayas. And then she finally married. We have heard of the story of Tarakasura and birth of Kartikeya. And the marriage scene of Shiva and Parvati was quite a scene to behold, because Shiva went, the Baratis were all the Pishachas, the ghosts and the goblins, and you might have seen the illustrations of Gita Press with all the entourage of Pretas, Bhutas, Ganas, and Shiva is going. Some of them doesn't have a limb, some of them wearing mundamalas, ashes, and they have one eye, one leg, no arms, 3 arms. So it's really a sight to see. So when the ladies come out to greet the Baratis, they are shocked. They are not just shocked, they are almost fainting. Anyways, but ab dena to hai. So the daughter is handed over to Shiva, and after the marriage, they're all going back much in the same way that they had come. So they're all making merry, throwing colors, ashes, smearing each other with colors, and so there is really a riot of festivals going on. So we'll just hear a song about how these people enjoy, play with colors on their way back with the bride, the new bride. Let's hear it.
There are 2 holies of Mahadeva. One is with Devatas and other is with his own Gana, Bhuta Pishacha. The first one is Mahadev ki Holi with Devatas.
खेले महादेव होरी खेले महादेव खेले खेले महादेव होरी खेले महादेवा होरी खेले महादेवा गगन में उड़े अबेरा
होरी खेले महादेवा गगन में उड़े अबेरा
होरी खेले महादेवा गगन में उड़े अबेरा
होरी खेले महादेवा गगन में उड़े अबीरा
होरी खेले महादेवा दशा दिशा भयो रंग बिरंगा
रंग बिरंग भयो रंग बिरंगा
सतरंगे लहरा मारे मैया गंगा
लहर मारे गंगा मारे मैया गंगा
गंगा बरसवे इंद्रदेव ओ रंग बरसवे इंद्रदेव होरी खेले महादेव गगन में उड़े अबेरा
होरी खेले महादेव गगन में उड़े अबीरा होरी खेले महादेव खेले महादेव खेले महादेव
होरी खेले महादेवा काशी नगरिया पे आसन जमाए
आसन जमाए आसन जमाए
भूता पिशाच से भांगा पिसियावे
भंग पिस आए भोला भंग पिसवाए
ऋषि मुनि संग सब देवा हो ऋषि मुनि संग सब देवा होरी खेले महादेव गगन में उड़े अबेरा
होरी खेले महादेव गगन में उड़े अबीरा
होली खेले महादेवा होली खेले महादेवा होली खेले महादेवा गगन में उड़े अबीरा होली खेले महादेवा खेले महादेवा खेले तो काशी के जो मणिकर्णिका शमशान है, शमशान में शिव जी होली खेल रहे हैं। तो कैसी है ये होली? अरे खेले मसाने में होरी, दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी। अरे खेले मसाने में होरी, दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी।
खेले मसाने में होरी, दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी।
इसके साथ भूत पिशाच बटोरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी होरी होरी।
भूत पिशाच बटोरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी।
अरे खेले मसाने में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी होरी। खेले मसाने में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी। जोगी है तो रंग की जरूरत नहीं है। लखी सुंदर लखी सुंदर फागुनी छटा के, लखी सुंदर फागुनी छटा के, मन से रंग गुलाल हटा के, मन से रंग गुलाल हटा के। सीता भस्मा भर झोरे, अरे चिता भस्म भर झोरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी।
खेले मसाने में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी।
खेले मसाने में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी। सुनिए शिव जी की पिचकारी क्या है। नाचत गावत डमरुधारी, नाचत गावत नाचत गावत नाचत गावत नाचत गावत नाचत गावत डमरुधारी, नाचत गावत डमरुधारी, नाचत गावत नाचत गावत नाचत गावत डमरुधारी। छोरे सरपा गरल पिचकारी, छोरे सरपा गरल पिचकारी, नाचत गावत डमरुधारी। छोरे सरपा गरल पिचकारी, पिटे भूत ठपोरी, पिटे भूत ठपोरी दिगंबर खेले
मसाने में होरी। खेले मसाने में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी। खेले मसाने में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी।
शिव जी की इस विचित्र होली को देखकर ब्रिज की छोरी क्या कह रही है, जो कि किशन जी के साथ रास रचती है, वो क्या कह रही है। भूतनाथ की मंगल हो रे, भूतनाथ की मंगल होरी, भूतनाथ की मंगल होरी, भूतनाथ की मंगल होरी, भूतनाथ की मंगल होरी। देखे सिहाए बिरज के छोरी, देखे सिहाए बिरज के छोरी। अरे धन धन नाथ अघोरे, अरे धन धन नाथ अघोरे, धन धन नाथ अघोरे, अरे धन धन नाथ अघोरे। दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी, खेले मसाने में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी होरी। खेले मसाने में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में होरी। अरे खेले मसाने में होरी दिगंबर खेले मसाने में, 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 खेले मसाने में होरी।
What joy! So शादी तो हो गया शिव और पार्वती का. Now it's time for some family life. So the divine couple starts living happily in Kailash, in the heavenly Kailash, that is. They're not very rich, they're poor family because वो शान में रहता है, भिक्षा करता है, जो चावल वावल जो मिलता है भिक्षा में वही खाते हैं. So they are not very well off, but they are content. So once again, the entire symbolism of Shiva and Shakti is actually standing as a message of what Indian civilization has always stood for. You know, like when Yama asked Yudhishthira in Mahabharata that what is the most greatest wealth, Yudhishthira replied, Santosh, content. So we see the manifestation of this content in the family of Shiva and Shakti. You see, but the mother of Parvati, Menaka, and her father, Himalaya, they are not happy. Of course, like who would want to give a princess in the house of somebody who lives in crematoriums and, you know, takes pot and, you know, smokes all these things, wears garland and blood and whatnot, you know, anything that you can imagine. So they are not happy. And Menaka is very sad, you know, all the time she's pining away, you know, like, you have been a disaster for my daughter, my only daughter. She's a princess, she's a Rajnandini, and you have given her off to some, you know, God-forsaken man, you know, who lives in crematoriums. I don't know what has happened of my Gauri. She has become Kali, you know, from Gauri she has become Kali. She has had to sell off her jewelries, and now she's all Digambari. She has become Digambari with Digambara. So Digambar means one who is sky-clad, you know, the 10 Dig or the directions are their robes. So in Bengal, there is this tradition that the daughter of the Himalayas comes back to visit her parents once a year. And Himalayas, of course, is on the earth, so the daughter comes back from the heavens, heavenly Kailash, back to earth to spend her time. So she is Durga, she is spending a happy life. She has 2 sons, Ganesh and Skanda, and she comes back once a year and spends 9 days in the earth, and then again she goes back. And on the night of Navami, Shiva comes to take her back. So this is a beautiful story, a very humane story, which is played out every year in Bengal. So what we'll do is, we will hear a song on Devi's manifestation as Durga. You know, and Durga, you know, is, as I said, she is Durga. And if you see the pantheon of Durga as she is done in Bengal, it's almost a sense of completeness. You know, you have Siddhi, Ganesha, you have Shakti in form of Skanda, Dev Senapati, you have Vidya as Saraswati, and you also have Shri, prosperity. Well, Shri is not just money, she is also prosperity. So you have a complete pantheon. So let us invoke this complete pantheon, what divinity stands for, through the next song.
दुर्गति परिहारिणी दुर्गति परिहारिणी दुर्गति परिहारिणी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी शुंभविदारिणी माता भवानी शुंभविदारिणी माता भवानी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी
आदिशक्ति पर ब्रह्म स्वरूपिणे आदिशक्ति पर ब्रह्म स्वरूपिणे आदिशक्ति पर ब्रह्म स्वरूपिणे जगज्जननी चाहु वेद बखानी जगज्जननी चाहु वेद बखानी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी ब्रह्मा शिवा हरि अर्चन कीनो ब्रह्मा शिवा हरि अर्चन कीनो ध्यान दरद सुर नर मुनि ज्ञानी ध्यान दरद सुर नर मुनि ज्ञानी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिपालिनी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिपालिनी ब्रह्मानंद शरण में आयो ब्रह्मानंद शरण में आयो ब्रह्मानंद शरण में आयो शरण में आयो शरण में आयो शरण ब्रह्मानंद शरण में आयो ब्रह्मानंद शरण में आयो भव भय नाश करो महारानी भव भय नाश करो महारानी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी शुंभविदारी माता भवानी शुंभविदारी माता भवानी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी जय दुर्गे दुर्गति परिहारिणी दुर्गति परिहारिणी दुर्गति
Now, Shiva is not merely a deity. He cannot be confined into a limiting human form. He is both with form and without form. He is both Saguna and Nirguna. He represents a Tattva. He is the primordial source of creation and also the created cosmos himself. And in him, the creation dissolutes at the end. Who can sing the glories of such a phenomenon? The Vedic seer sings in vain, O Lord, if the black mountain be the ink, the ocean the ink pot, the branch of the stout wish-fulfilling tree a pen, the earth the writing leaf, and if taking all these, the goddess of learning herself writes for eternity, even then the limit of your virtues will not be reached. So we'll just hear a little bit from Shiva Mahimna Stotra.
श्मशानेष्वा क्रीडा स्मरहर पिशाचाः सहचराश्चिता भस्मालेप सगपिनिकरोटे परिकर अमङ्गल्यं शीलं तव भवतु नामैवमखिलं तथापि स्मर्तॄणां वरद परमं मङ्गलमसि मनः प्रत्यक्चित्ते सविधमवधायत्तमरुत प्रहिष्यद्रोमाणः प्रमदसलिलोत्सङ्गितदृश यदालोक्याह्लादं हृदयैव निमज्जामृतमये दधात्यन्तस्तत्त्वं किमपि यमिनस्तत्किल भवान् त्वमर्कस्त्वं सोमस्त्वमसि पवनस्त्वं हुतवः त्वमापस्त्वं व्योम त्वमुधरणिरात्मा त्वमिति च परिच्छिन्नामेवं त्वयि परिणता बिभ्रतु गिरं न विद्मस्तत्तत्त्वं वयमिह तु यत्त्वं न भवसि नमो नेदिष्ठाय प्रियदवदविष्ठाय च नमो नमः क्षोधिष्ठाय स्मरहरमहिष्ठाय च नमः नमो वर्षिष्ठाय त्रिनयनयविष्ठाय च नमो नमः सर्वस्मै ते तदितमति सर्वाय च नमः बहुलरजसे विश्वोत्पत्तौ भवाय नमो नमः प्रबलतमसे तत्संहारे हराय नमो नमः जनसुखकृते सत्त्वोद्रिक्तौ मृडाय नमो नमः प्रमहसि पदे निस्त्रैगुण्ये शिवाय नमो नमः कृशपरिणति चेतक्लेशवश्यं क्वचेदं क्व च तव गुणसीमोल्लङ्घिनी शश्वतृद्धिः इति चकितममन्दीकृत्य मां भक्तिराधात् वरद चरणयोस्ते वाक्यपुष्पोपहारम् असितगिरिसमं स्यात् कज्जलं सिन्धुपात्रे सुरतरवरुशाखालेखनी पत्रमुर्वी लिखति यदि गृहीत्वा शारदा सर्वकालं तदपि तव गुणानामीश पारं न याति श्रीपुष्पदन्तमुखपङ्कजनिर्गतेन स्तोत्रेण किल्बिषहरेण हरप्रियेण कर्णस्थितेन पठितेन गृहस्थितेन सुप्रीणितो भवति भूतपतिर्महेशः इत्वेषा वाङ्मयी पूजा श्रीमच्छङ्करपादयोः अर्पिता तेन देवेशः प्रियतां मे सदा शिव ॐ शिवार्पणमस्तु ॐ नमः शिवाय
So we have come to the end of our program. And when the time for the end comes closer, Shiva reveals his Rudra Swarup. It is the time for Mahadev to become Mahakal. And nothing escapes the times, the clutches of time, Kal. And Kal, Mahakal represents that all-devouring time. And where does this Mahakal go after the act of devouring? He dissolutes in Mahakali. One who dissolutes Mahakal himself is called Kali. She is wild, she is fierce, and she is the end personified. But this death is not the end. Death leads to birth, birth of new hope. In this auspicious occasion, let us unite and sing the glories of Mahakal and Mahakali. Let us unite in the communion with the divine couple, the great Father and the loving Mother. Let us embrace them as we sing Mata cha Parvati Devi, Pita Devo Maheshwaraha, Vandhavo Shiva Bhaktascha, Swadesho Bhuvanatrayam. Mother Parvati is my mother, Maheshwara is my father. All the Bhaktas of Shiva are my friends, and the three worlds are my home. Come, let us immerse ourselves in this auspicious evening in the transcendental Nama Kirtan of Adidev and seek his prema.
Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha. Om Jai Gangadhar Hara Jaya Girijadhisha. Om Jai Gangadhar Hara Jaya Girijadhisha. Om Jai Gangadhar Hara Jaya Girijadhisha. Swami Jaya Girijadhisha. Twang Mang Palaya Nityam, Twang Mang Palaya Nityam, Kripaya Jagadesha. Om Hara 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 Mahadev. Kailase Giri Shikhare Kalpadruma Vipine, Swami Kalpadruma Vipine. Kunjati Madhukara Kunje, Kunjati Madhukara Kunje, Kunjavane Gahare. Om Hara 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 Mahadev. Kokila Kujita Khelata Hangsavana Lalita, Swami Hangsavana Lalita. Rachayati Kala Kalapam, Rachayati Kala Kalapam, Retyati Muda Sahita. Om Hara 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 Mahadev. Tasmin Lalita Sureshe Shala Mani Rachita, Swami Shala Mani Rachita. Tanmadhye Hara Nikate, Tanmadhye Hara Nikate, Gauri Muda Sahita. Om Hara 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 Mahadev. Krida Rachayati Bhusha Ranjita Nijamisham, Swami Ranjita Nijamisham. Indradika Sura Sevata, Indradika Sura Sevata, Namayati Shidram. Om Hara 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 Mahadev. Munde Rachayati Mala Pannagamupavitam, Swami Pannagamupavitam. Vama Vibhage Girija, Vama Vibhage Girija, Rupangati Lalitam. Om Hara 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 Mahadev. Sundara Sakala Sharire Krita Bhasma Bharanam, Swami Krita Bhasma Bharanam. Iti Vrishabhat Bhajarupam, Iti Vrishabhat Bhajarupam, Tapatraya Haranam. Om Hara 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 Mahadev. Om
जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति शिव जी की जय जय
बोलो पार्वती पति शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति
Join us, join us.
जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
बोलो भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
बोलो भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति 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 शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय
पार्वती पति 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 शिव जी की जय जय
नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव Now I would like to introduce my musicians here. In Pakhwaj and Dholak, Tuhin Sen Gupta. In Tabla, Orko Banerjee. In percussion, Pankaj Das. Harmonium and keyboard, Deborshi Mukherjee. And my supporting voices, Rupa Shirsha and Raja Shirsha. And in sound, Shomitra Das, our Babuda. Big hands for her. And thank you, Alka ji, Surekha ji, Alka Jalan Foundation.
And what about Halley and Shiva?
I introduced myself initially.
They were divine, weren't they? There are
you.
no words to say.
भोले की जय जय शिव जी की जय जय। आपने जिस तरह शिव जी का आह्वान किया उसमें इतनी ऊर्जा थी और इतनी शक्ति थी। हम तो आपके साथ साथ होली भी मना लिए और शिव जी की बारात में भी चल दिए। बहुत अच्छा लगा। नमस्कार।
नमस्ते, नमस्ते। Thank you.